Listen, I need you to understand something right from the start. When the Galactic Council sent me to evaluate the human colony on Outpost Kepler 442b, I thought it would be a simple assignment. Routine inspection, file a report, go home, maybe catch the lunar races on my way back. I was wrong. So incredibly, catastrophically wrong. My name is Vorn. I am a Threxian compliance officer, 3rd class. I have 17 years of experience evaluating frontier colonies across 42 systems. I have seen methane-breathing Gorpians build cities underwater. I have watched silicon-based krillites consume entire asteroids for breakfast. I have documented species that communicate through controlled radiation pulses. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for humans. The first sign of trouble appeared when I entered the landing bay. Standard protocol dictates that station commanders greet visiting officials with appropriate ceremony, flags, honor guards, perhaps a small ensemble playing traditional music. What I got instead was a woman in grease-stained coveralls, holding what appeared to be a wrench the size of my torso, grinning like a predator who just spotted lunch. "You must be the inspector," she called out, waving the wrench in a manner I can only describe as threatening. "Name's Captain Reeves. Welcome to our little slice of organized chaos." Organized chaos. That should have been my first clue. "I am Compliance Officer Vorn," I replied, checking my datapad. "I am here to conduct a standard safety evaluation of your facility." "Safety evaluation?" Reeves laughed. Actually laughed. Her teeth were very white and very numerous. Humans have so many teeth. Why do they need so many teeth? "Oh, this is going to be fun. Hey Marcus, get over here. We've got ourselves an inspector." A tall human male emerged from behind a cargo hauler, wiping his hands on a rag that looked suspiciously like it used to be someone's shirt. "Inspector? Today? I thought that was next cycle?" "Apparently not," Reeves said cheerfully. "Want to give him the grand tour?" Marcus looked at me. I looked at Marcus. His expression suggested he was calculating exactly how much trouble they were already in. I later learned this is a common human facial expression, worn approximately 60% of the time. "Sure," Marcus said slowly. "Let's start with the easy stuff first. Follow me, Inspector Vorn." The easy stuff, as it turned out, was a relative term. We walked through corridors that somehow managed to be both pristine and chaotic. Everything was clean, everything functioned, but the organization system appeared to have been designed by a committee of caffeinated squirrels. Tools hung on walls next to emergency medical supplies. Food storage units sat adjacent to ammunition lockers. There was a plant, an actual living plant growing in what I'm 70% certain was supposed to be a coolant reservoir. "Is that vegetation in your cooling system?" I asked, pausing to mark another violation on my pad. "Oh, that's just Herbert," Marcus said dismissively. "He keeps the air fresh. Carbon dioxide conversion, you know, very efficient. You named your unauthorized biological contamination." "Contamination is such a harsh word," Reeves interjected, appearing from a side corridor. "We prefer to think of him as crew." I made a note, then another note, then a third note that simply said, "Query, are humans insane?" The tour continued. The medical bay was, miraculously, up to code. The doctor, a woman named Torres with kind eyes and steady hands, showed me their equipment with professional pride. I was beginning to think maybe the humans weren't so bad after all. Then I saw the armory. "Holy stars above," I whispered, my mandibles clicking in distress. "Why do you have 17 different types of explosive devices? You are a research outpost. Your primary mission is botanical studies." "Well, yes," Marcus agreed, "but we're also on the edge of uncharted space. Lots of unknown variables out here. Pirates, hostile fauna, space anomalies, really aggressive rock formations." "Aggressive rock formations? You'd be surprised," Reeves said darkly. "We lost Jenkins to a crystalline growth pattern last year. Poor bastard thought it was pretty. Tried to take a sample. The sample took him instead. I decided not to ask for clarification. Some things are better left unknown." We proceeded to the command center, where I met the rest of the senior staff. There was Kowalski, the chief engineer, who looked like he hadn't slept in 3 days and was probably running on stimulants, and there was Yamamoto, the communications officer, who could apparently speak 14 languages and swear in 37. There was DuPont, the botanist, whose enthusiasm for carnivorous plants was borderline disturbing. And then there was Rachel Quinn. Security Chief Rachel Quinn stood exactly 163 centimeters tall. She had red hair pulled back in a strict bun, green eyes that missed absolutely nothing, and the kind of smile that made hardened criminals reconsider their life choices. She wore her sidearm like it was part of her skeleton. "Inspector Vorn," she said, extending her hand. I had learned this was a human greeting ritual. I touched her palm briefly. Her grip could have crushed minerals. "I hope everyone's been hospitable." "Very much so," I managed. "I am simply conducting routine safety protocols." "Of course," Quinn said. Her smile widened. "I'm sure you'll find everything in perfect order." Narrator's note: everything was not in perfect order. The incident happened on day 3 of my inspection. I was reviewing their weapons storage protocols when the alarms started. Not the gentle, informative alarms of civilized species. No, these were the loud, panic-inducing, "someone is definitely going to die" alarms. "Perimeter breach." Yamamoto's voice crackled over the intercom. "Multiple hostiles. Southeast quadrant." I froze. This was not part of the inspection. This was very much not part of the inspection. Reeves appeared from nowhere, suddenly wearing combat armor that definitely had not been visible 30 seconds ago. "Inspector, you're going to want to get to the safe room." "What is happening?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice from climbing 3 octaves. "Pirates, probably," Marcus said, running past with an enormous rifle. "Or maybe those Kharvak raiders we heard about. Could be space locusts again. Really hope it's not space locusts." "Space locusts?" Nobody answered. Everyone was moving with terrifying efficiency, transforming from relaxed researchers into a coordinated military unit in less than 2 minutes. I followed Reeves because I couldn't think of anything else to do. The safe room turned out to be the command center, now sealed behind blast doors that looked like they could withstand a supernova. Screens showed multiple angles of the outpost's exterior. Dark shapes were moving toward the facility. Large dark shapes, with weapons. "Kharvak," Quinn confirmed, studying the displays with cold calculation. 20, maybe 25 hostiles. Heavy arms. "They're testing our response time." "Testing?" I squeaked. "Testing implies they plan to attack again." "Oh, they definitely do," Quinn said cheerfully. "This is their 4th attempt this year. They're persistent. Stupid, but persistent." Reeves was coordinating defensive positions through her communicator. "Marcus, take the east wall. DuPont, believe it or not, we need your plant friends armed and ready. Kowalski, I need the defensive grid at maximum. Torres, prep medical. Yamamoto, send a priority burst to the nearest council patrol." "On it," multiple voices responded. I watched in horrified fascination as the humans deployed their defenses. Automated turrets rose from hidden positions. Energy barriers flickered to life. And somewhere, somehow, DuPont was releasing what appeared to be mobile carnivorous plants into the perimeter zones. "Are those plants attacking the raiders?" I asked weakly. "Snapjaws," DuPont's voice came through the speaker, filled with pride. "Genetically modified Venus flytraps, crossbred with some local flora. They're very effective against soft tissue." "That cannot possibly be legal." "It's a gray area," Reeves admitted, "but very effective." The Kharvak breached the outer fence. They were large, reptilian creatures known throughout the sector for their brutality and complete lack of imagination. They operated on simple principles: see colony, attack colony, steal everything, leave nothing alive. They had clearly never attacked a human colony before. The first wave hit the Snapjaws. The sounds that came through the audio feed will haunt my dreams for years. The second wave encountered the automated defenses, turrets tracked with impossible precision, firing stun rounds that dropped Kharvak like stones. The third wave, showing slightly more intelligence, attempted to flank around the western wall. They found Quinn waiting for them. I watched through the external cameras as the security chief stood alone in the open courtyard. She was not running. She was not hiding. She was standing there like she was waiting for a transport, except she was facing down 8 armed raiders. "Is she insane?" I whispered. "Probably," Marcus said from his position. "But she's our kind of insane." The lead Kharvak raised what looked like a grenade launcher. Quinn didn't move. The creature made what I assume was a threatening gesture in its own language, probably demanding surrender. Quinn said something back. I couldn't hear it, but Marcus suddenly laughed. Oh, she did not just insult his mother. The Kharvak roared. It fired. The grenade arced through the air in slow motion. A real, actual, explosive grenade, heading straight for Quinn. This was it. I was about to witness the death of a human, and it would be my fault for distracting them with this inspection, and the council would revoke my license. And I would spend the rest of my life working in the filing department on Bureaucrat Station 7. Quinn's foot came up. She kicked the grenade. Mid-flight. Kicked it like she was playing some kind of sport. The explosive device reversed course, sailing back toward the shocked Kharvak. "Nice try," Quinn said, her voice carrying clearly through the audio feed. Then she dove behind a barrier. The explosion was spectacular. When the smoke cleared, the Kharvak were retreating in complete disarray. The snapjaws had accounted for 6 of them. The automated defenses had stunned another 8. Quinn's ridiculous grenade return had scattered the rest. The entire battle had lasted 7 minutes. 7 minutes. I sat in the command center, my entire body trembling, while the humans around me celebrated like they had just won a sporting match instead of surviving a deadly raid. "Medical. This is command," Reeves said into her communicator. "Casualties?" "2 minor injuries," Torres replied. "Burns from plasma splatter, nothing serious." "Excellent work, everyone," Reeves said. "Let's get those prisoners secured and call this one a win." She turned to me. I must have looked absolutely horrified, because her expression softened slightly. "Sorry about that, Inspector," she said. "Bad timing. This really doesn't happen very often." "Doesn't happen very often?" I repeated. "You just fought off a Kharvak raid like it was a minor inconvenience. Your security chief kicked an explosive device back at the enemy. There are carnivorous plants eating the unconscious raiders." "Well, when you put it like that it sounds exciting," Marcus said, grinning. I looked at my data pad. I had 47 violations logged, 17 safety concerns, 9 unauthorized modifications, and now I had to add, successfully defended against military assault using improvised tactics and weaponized horticulture. The council was going to have questions. So many questions. But as I watched the humans efficiently clean up the aftermath, treating their prisoners with surprising compassion, tending to their wounded and somehow already joking about the incident, I realized something. I had been sent to evaluate whether humans were fit to maintain this outpost. I was beginning to think the real question was whether the universe was prepared for what would happen when humanity decided to expand further. That night, as I sat in my assigned quarters trying to organize my thoughts, Quinn knocked on my door. She carried 2 containers of liquid. "Thought you might need this," she said, handing me one. "It's called coffee. Helps with stress." I accepted it cautiously. "Thank you." She sat down without invitation. "Very human. You're going to write a bad report, aren't you?" "I am going to write a truthful report," I corrected. "Whether that is good or bad depends on perspective." Quinn smiled. "Fair enough. For what it's worth, we're not trying to cause problems. We're just trying to survive out here on our own terms. By kicking grenades. By doing whatever it takes," she said seriously. "The universe is a dangerous place, Inspector, especially out here on the frontier. We adapt, we improvise, we overcome. That's what humans do." I sipped the coffee. It was terrible and wonderful simultaneously. Very much like humans themselves. "That Kharvak raider," I said. "The one with the grenade launcher. What did you say to him before he fired?" Quinn's smile turned wicked. "I told him his aim was as bad as his breath, and his mother was a 3-toed sloth with better combat instincts. You insulted him to make him attack. I calculated he would shoot high when angry, made the kick easier." I stared at her. You planned to kick the grenade from the beginning? Of course, Quinn said. Why else would I stand there? My entire understanding of human psychology whimpered and died. But somewhere, in the back of my mind, a new thought formed. A dangerous, troubling, exhilarating thought. What if the universe didn't need protection from humans? What if the universe needed humans to protect it? I would write my report. I would document every violation, every irregularity, every instance of controlled madness. And then I would recommend that the Council authorize expansion of human colonies. Because after today, I understood something the Council didn't. The age of humanity had begun. And the galaxy would never be the same. The morning after the Kharvak incident, I woke up to find someone had left breakfast outside my door. It consisted of a grey protein paste labeled oatmeal, a brown liquid that smelled like burnt ambition, and a handwritten note that said, "Sorry about yesterday. Today will be quieter. Probably. That word should be banned from the human vocabulary. I consumed the protein paste because my species requires regular nutrition, though I questioned whether humans actually ate this substance or used it as construction material. The brown liquid turned out to be more coffee. I was developing a tolerance, or possibly an addiction, hard to tell. When I emerged from my quarters, the outpost had returned to normal operations. The blast damage from yesterday had been repaired. The unconscious Kharvak raiders had been placed in holding cells. The carnivorous plants had been fed and returned to their containment greenhouse. Everything was functioning as if a military assault had not occurred less than 12 hours ago. Kowalski found me in the corridor, looking even more exhausted than before. "Inspector, perfect timing. Want to see the reactor room? It's actually up to code. Mostly. Another word that should be banned." The reactor room was located in the lowest level of the facility. As we descended, Kowalski talked continuously about plasma flow regulators, containment fields, and something called a backup system that he had installed himself. "You see, standard reactors have redundant safety protocols," he explained, gesturing wildly with a tool that sparked occasionally. "But I figured, why stop at redundant? Why not have redundancy for the redundancy? So I built a tertiary containment system using salvaged parts from a Varelian cruiser." "Salvaged?" I asked carefully. "Well, salvaged is a strong word. More like creatively acquired from a derelict ship we found floating in Sector 9. That does not sound legal." "It wasn't illegal at the time," Kowalski said cheerfully. "The laws about salvage rights weren't updated until 3 months after we took the parts. Technically, we're grandfathered in." I made a note. Then I crossed it out. Then I made it again. My violations list was becoming longer than some species' religious texts. The reactor room itself was magnificent. 3 stories tall, humming with controlled power, surrounded by monitors and safety systems that would make a council engineer weep with joy. Everything gleamed. Everything beeped at appropriate intervals. Everything was absolutely perfect. "This is remarkable," I admitted. "Your reactor efficiency exceeds council standards by 18%. Kowalski beamed with pride. "Thanks. I made some modifications to the plasma injectors, also rebuilt the entire cooling array. Oh, and I added a manual override system in case the AI goes rogue." "Why would your artificial intelligence go rogue?" "Hasn't happened yet," Kowalski said. "But you know how it is. Better safe than sorry." I did not know how it was. My species has used artificial intelligence for 3,000 years without a single incident of rebellion. But humans seem to live in a constant state of preparing for disasters that had never occurred and possibly never would. We were leaving the reactor room when the alarm started again. Not the invasion alarms this time. Different alarms. Medical alarms. Kowalski's expression shifted instantly from tired engineer to concerned human. "That's the Bay alarm. Someone's hurt." We ran. Humans run very fast when motivated. I struggled to keep pace, my 4 legs working frantically while Kowalski's 2 somehow covered more ground. We arrived at the landing bay to find a crowd gathered around a figure on the ground. It was Marcus. He was conscious but pale, holding his arm at an unnatural angle. Blood seeped through his fingers. A cargo container lay nearby, its contents scattered across the floor. Torres was already there, medical kit open, hands moving with practiced efficiency. Compound fracture, she announced. Possible internal bleeding. I need him in surgery now. What happened? Reeves demanded, appearing from somewhere above us. She might have been flying. I was no longer ruling anything out. Container failed, one of the other humans explained. His name was Jackson, I think. Or Johnson. Humans have very similar names. Support cable snapped. Marcus tried to catch it. You tried to catch a half-ton cargo container? I asked Marcus, incredulous. It had the botanical samples, Marcus gasped. DuPont's been working on those for 6 months. Couldn't let them get destroyed. You could have been destroyed. But I wasn't, Marcus said, then winced as Torres injected something into his neck. Mostly wasn't. Partially wasn't. Stop talking, Torres ordered. You're going into shock. Reeves, I need a stretcher team. Quinn, clear a path to medical. Everyone else, back to work. This is handled. The humans moved like a coordinated organism. Within 90 seconds, Marcus was on a stretcher being rushed to medical. Within 3 minutes the landing bay was cleaned up, the cargo was secured, and everyone had returned to their duties. I stood there, datapad in hand, trying to process what I had just witnessed. A human had tried to catch a falling cargo container to save plant samples. He had failed, obviously, because physics does not care about noble intentions. But he had tried. That was the important part. He had seen something valuable at risk, and his immediate instinct was to sacrifice his own safety to protect it. This was not logical. This was not efficient. This was not sensible by any reasonable measure. This was incredibly, impossibly, frustratingly human. I found DuPont in the greenhouse an hour later. She was tending to her plants with gentle care, whispering to them in French. When she saw me, her expression crumbled. Is Marcus okay? She asked immediately. Torres said the surgery went well, I replied. He will recover fully in approximately 6 weeks. DuPont sagged with relief. Then anger flashed across her face. That idiot! Why would he do something so stupid? They're just plants. I can grow more plants. I cannot grow another Marcus. He said you had been working on them for 6 months. 6 months is nothing compared to a human life. She gestured at the greenhouse around us, at the hundreds of specimens carefully cultivated in climate-controlled environments. All of this, everything I do here, it means nothing if the people around me get hurt because of it. I looked at the plants. Many were medicinal. Some produced oxygen at 3 times the rate of standard vegetation. Others had nutritional properties that could sustain human life in extreme conditions. DuPont's work was not frivolous. It was vital to the Outpost's long-term survival. But to her, Marcus was more vital. You care about him, I observed. Of course I care about him. We all care about each other. That's how this works. DuPont wiped her eyes angrily. You don't survive out here by being alone, Inspector. You survive by having people you trust watching your back. People you would die for. People who would die for you, apparently, even when they absolutely should not. She stormed off to tend to a plant that looked like it might bite her. It probably could. This was a human greenhouse after all. I spent the afternoon reviewing security footage and maintenance records. The more I examined this outpost, the more contradictions I found. The humans violated protocols constantly, yet their safety record was exemplary. They modified equipment without authorization, yet everything functioned better than standard issue gear. They operated with barely controlled chaos, yet their efficiency ratings exceeded every other research station in the sector. By any objective measure, this facility should not work. But it did work. It worked brilliantly. That evening, I was summoned to Reeves' office. I entered to find the captain sitting behind a desk covered in reports, surrounded by screens showing various station systems. She looked tired, but alert. Inspector Vorn, she said, gesturing to a chair. Please sit. We need to talk. I sat. The chair was designed for humans and therefore uncomfortable for my physiology, but I managed. I know what your report is going to say, Reeves continued. We're unorthodox. We break rules. We operate outside standard parameters. You have every right to recommend this facility be shut down and the crew reassigned. That is within my authority. Yes, I confirmed. But before you make that decision, I want you to understand why we do things the way we do. Reeves pulled up a file on her screen. 2 years ago, this outpost was established following standard council protocols. Every regulation followed to the letter. Every procedure by the book. Know what happened? I shook my head. We almost died. 3 times in the first 6 months. She pulled up incident reports. First time, equipment failure. Standard issue life support couldn't handle the environmental conditions. If Kowalski hadn't modified the systems using unauthorized parts, we would have suffocated. She pulled up another report. Second time, hostile fauna. The defensive perimeter was designed based on council assessments of local wildlife. Turns out those assessments were wrong. The creatures here are faster, smarter and more aggressive than projected. If Quinn hadn't trained everyone in improvised combat tactics, we would have been overrun. Another report. Third time, supply shortage. The delivery ship was delayed by 4 months due to bureaucratic complications. If DuPont hadn't accelerated her agricultural projects using experimental methods, we would have starved. Reeves leaned back in her chair. After that, I made a decision. We would follow the spirit of council regulations, not the letter. We would prioritize survival over compliance. We would do whatever it took to keep this outpost running and everyone alive. Even if it meant breaking laws. Especially if it meant breaking laws, Reeves said firmly. Because out here, Inspector, the laws were written by people who have never faced what we face. They sit in comfortable offices on safe planets and create regulations based on theories and projections. We live in the reality those theories failed to predict. She stood up, walking to the window that overlooked the outpost grounds. You want to know why Quinn kicked that grenade? Because she calculated it was the best tactical response. You want to know why Marcus tried to catch that container? Because he knew those samples could save lives someday. You want to know why we have weaponized plants and modified reactors and 17 types of explosives? Why? I asked quietly. Because we are human, Reeves said simply. We adapt. We improvise. We look at impossible situations and we find solutions. Sometimes those solutions are messy. Sometimes they're dangerous. Sometimes they violate every safety protocol ever written. But they work, and out here results matter more than methods. I processed this. Everything she said made a terrible kind of sense. The council will not see it that way, I warned. Then help them see it, Reeves said, turning to face me. Your report will determine not just the fate of this outpost, but the future of human expansion into frontier space. If you recommend closure, the council will use it as justification to restrict human settlements to safe, established sectors. We will be contained, controlled, limited. And if I recommend approval, then humanity proves we belong among the stars, Reeves said, not as a protected species that needs constant supervision, but as equals capable of thriving in environments that would destroy others. She was asking me to lie, not explicitly, but the implication was clear. She wanted me to overlook the violations, ignore the irregularities, and recommend approval despite overwhelming evidence of non-compliance. I should have been offended. I should have been angry. Instead, I was thinking. The next morning, I requested a meeting with the entire senior staff. They gathered in the conference room, looking nervous. Humans have very expressive faces when they are worried. I have completed my inspection, I announced. I have 43 documented violations of council safety regulations. I have identified 17 unauthorized modifications to critical systems. I have witnessed 1 military engagement and 1 serious injury, both directly related to operational decisions made without council oversight. The room was very quiet. However, I continued. I have also observed operational efficiency that exceeds council standards by an average of 22%. I have documented survival rates that surpass comparable facilities by significant margins. I have witnessed teamwork, innovation, and dedication that represents the best qualities of any spacefaring species. I looked at each of them in turn. You are absolutely terrible at following rules. You modify everything. You take risks that would make most species faint with horror. You treat deadly situations like minor inconveniences. Quinn grinned. Reeves tried not to smile. Marcus, bandaged and medicated, gave me a thumbs-up gesture that I had learned meant approval. But you're also brilliant, resourceful, and effective, I finished. You have turned a marginal outpost into a thriving research station. You have defended against military threats. You have overcome supply shortages, equipment failures, and environmental hazards that would have destroyed lesser facilities. I pulled up my final report on the display screen. Therefore, my official recommendation is conditional approval. This facility will remain operational under the following terms: quarterly safety reviews, mandatory reporting of all equipment modifications, and establishment of formal protocols for emergency response procedures. That's it? Kowalski asked. No shutdown? No reassignments? No shutdown, I confirmed. Though I am strongly suggesting you find a more legal source for reactor parts. The room erupted in celebration. Humans are very loud when happy. Reeves approached me after the meeting. Thank you, Inspector. This means more than you know. Do not thank me yet, I said. You still have to survive 3 more quarterly reviews. I will be back to check on your progress. Looking forward to it, Reeves said, and I believed she meant it. As I prepared to depart the next day, I found an unexpected crowd gathered at the landing bay. The entire outpost staff had turned out to see me off. DuPont gave me a small plant in a container. For your ship. It produces extra oxygen and smells pleasant. Kowalski handed me a data chip. Schematics for some of our modifications. Completely off the record. Might help with other inspections. Torres gave me a medical kit. Standard human first aid supplies. Never know when you might need them. And Quinn simply nodded at me, respect clear in her eyes. Safe travels, Inspector. Try not to kick any grenades unless absolutely necessary. I will endeavor to avoid situations requiring grenade kicking, I replied solemnly. Marcus, still recovering but insisting on attending, raised his good arm in salute. Come back any time, Inspector. We'll try to keep the explosions to a minimum. As my shuttle lifted off, I watched the outpost shrink below me. From this distance it looked orderly, efficient, perfectly normal. I knew better now. That outpost was a monument to human stubbornness, creativity, and refusal to accept limitations. It was messy and chaotic, and broke approximately 40% of established regulations. It was also the future. During my return trip I drafted my official report. I included every violation, every modification, every instance of unorthodox behavior. I documented everything exactly as I had witnessed it. Then I wrote my conclusion. Humanity represents a unique challenge to Council oversight protocols. They do not conform to established patterns of colonial development. They do not follow standard operating procedures. They do not behave according to predicted models. This is not a weakness. This is their greatest strength. Where other species see obstacles, humans see opportunities. Where others accept limitations, humans create solutions. Where others retreat from danger, humans advance with improvised weapons and carnivorous plants. The question is not whether humanity should be allowed to expand into frontier space. The question is whether we are prepared for what happens when they do. I recommend full authorization for human colonial expansion, with the understanding that traditional oversight methods will require significant adaptation. Humanity will not fit into our existing frameworks. We must build new frameworks to accommodate them. The alternative is to try containing a species that kicked a grenade back at their attackers and called it a normal Tuesday. I do not recommend that alternative. 3 months later, I received a message from Outpost Kepler 442b. It included a video recording. The recording showed the entire senior staff gathered in the conference room. Reeves held a bottle of something that bubbled suspiciously. Inspector Vorn, we heard your report was approved by the Council. You made us famous. We're now the model facility for human frontier operations. Behind her, Kowalski raised his own bottle. They're sending 3 new research teams based on our success. We're expanding. DuPont appeared in frame, grinning. And they've authorized my experimental agriculture program. Official funding and everything. Quinn stepped forward, the dangerous smile firmly in place. Just wanted to say thanks. You took a chance on us. We won't let you down. The recording ended with all of them raising their bottles in salute. I watched it 3 times. Then I sent a reply, try not to blow anything up, and please, for the love of all civilized species, stop naming your equipment. The response came 2 days later. No promises. Herbert says hello. I laughed. My assistant heard me and came running thinking I was choking. I had to explain that no, I was fine, I was simply experiencing human-induced hysteria. My assistant did not understand. Few beings would. But I understood now. Humans were not just another species joining the galactic community. They were a force of nature, disguised in fragile biological forms. They were chaos made sentient. They were the universe's way of keeping everyone else on their toes. And perhaps that is exactly what we needed. 6 months later, I received my next assignment. Another human outpost. Another inspection. Another opportunity to document the magnificent disaster that was human space colonization. I packed my bags, loaded my data pad, and prepared for departure. This time, I brought extra coffee. I had a feeling I was going to need it.